Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is award-winning investigative reporter Bob Mackin, publisher of the Breaker.News. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Thank you.
Bob, Jody Wilson-Raybould, running as an independent, the former cabinet minister with the Trudeau government. What do you think her chances are running as an independent in such a closely fought battle?
Well, she's got the name of recognition. She's an incumbent. She's seen by average people as someone who stood up for her principles and did her job. Of course, that's not the view held by liberal partisans who call her a turncoat and other things and who aren't exactly respectful of her speaking truth to the power. But she has a wide range of support from across demographics, from across party lines. She's actually on the Breaker.News podcast this week. You can hear most of her speech that she did on September 18th. She had a rally at the Atlantic Community Center on Arbutus. Invited guests included Elizabeth May, the leader of the Green Party, as well as Jane Philpott, the other Liberal cabinet minister who was kicked out of caucus by Justin Trudeau. Of course, earlier this year, this was the biggest story of the year, and I'm not sure if Andrew Scheer really is using this as the hammer that he should in the final days of the election. Certainly, the NDP is. The NDP is making sure that the public remembers the SNC-Lavalin scandal in its advertising. But Jody Wilson-Raybould, I think she's in a very good position to be reelected. In her riding, she's run a very slick campaign. She's got a name, and she's been really promoting her independence. And at that event, September 18th, again, you can listen to it on the Breaker.News podcast. You can hear her talk about where we are in Canada right now. Her concerns include climate change. Her concerns include just how government works or isn't working in its current function in this hyper-partisan, divisive era that we're in. She really does call out partisanship for being toxic and how it's actually holding us back. We're not getting things done in Canada because we're often little fiefdoms. And it's interesting how the politicians on the campaign trail, especially Justin Trudeau, with his slogan, diversity is strength. Well, Justin Trudeau is not exactly someone who really is welcoming of diversity of opinion. He's an embodiment of a political party brand, which is all about divide and conquer. Same thing you can say about the Conservatives. Same thing you can say about the NDP. They're brands, they're marketed, and they're trying to sell something to their base, and try to hope to gain some customers, if you can call them that, from the others. Because there is a large amount of people that do change their votes between elections and do change their allegiances, but there is also a strong base for each party. That's a problem in Canada that was supposed to be solved. Justin Trudeau last time around in 2015 promised that the 2015 election would be the last of the first past the post, that Canada would be moving towards electoral reform, proportional representation, but we're still stuck with first past the post. We're still stuck with a very hyper-partisan nature, and that, argues Jody Wilson-Raybould, is something which is not good for us to solve the big problems that we face. And unfortunately, this is an election that has not been talked about when it comes to issues of democracy, of accountability, of governance, of how we do government. Because what we've seen in the decades as we've gone from, the first Trudeau era into the the era of Brian Mulroney, then into the Chrétien and Martin era, then into the Harper era, then now we're in the Trudeau era, which could end on Monday, or it could continue on after Monday. We don't quite know. But what we've seen is a further concentration of power in the Prime Minister's office. That the Prime Minister of Canada in Canada is more powerful than the President of the United States is in the United States. In the United States, they have checks and balances. They got the Senate, they got the House, they've got various laws, they got term limits. They have a lot of mechanisms to try to hold the President in check that we don't have up here to hold the Prime Minister in check, which you might be sitting back and saying, well, look at Trump, he's going nuts, he's power hungry in the U.S. Well, there still are restraints to prevent the President from going as far as people think he might want to go. There is the impeachment process. That has already started. You can't impeach a Prime Minister. All you can hope for is that the caucus might do something to, and Cabinet might do something to restrain the power of the Prime Minister, perhaps, or convince the Prime Minister to resign. But theoretically, the Prime Minister could continue on as many years as possible to be voted back. And again, voted back by a very low percentage of Canadians. There was the encouraging numbers for the Thanksgiving weekend advance voting across the country, but was that just a function that the weather was favorable in most parts of the country, not in Manitoba, but in most parts of the country the weather was favorable, and it was a holiday weekend, and people did have some extra time on their hands, and they found it convenient. And when you make voting convenient for people, people do respond. But bring it back to Jody Wilson-Raybould. I expect her to win her seat, and we'll see what the polls, the real polls, have to say on Monday, because the opinion polls scientifically have been pointing towards some sort of political deadlock, that there could be a minority government, or there could be a situation where, to break the tie, you might have to have the Greens or the NDP support one of the parties, or even have the Bloc Québécois support a party, such as the Conservatives, to put them over the top. We'll see how accurate the opinion polls are when the actual polls close on Monday night and the counting starts.
We'll have more with Bob Mackin right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the 2019 drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Mackin. Bob, what is your take? Are we going to see a minority liberal government, a minority conservative government? And what are the scenarios about who might support who?
And I'm not so sure. I mean, you never know what could happen the next few days. There is some desperation showing from Team Trudeau, from the Liberal Party camp. You can look at various candidates, some of them high-profile candidates, cabinet ministers, even such as Harjit Sajjan, Joyce Murray, Catherine McKenna in Ottawa, as well as Jonathan Wilkinson over on the North Shore. Look at their advertising, as I have, and it's missing the T word. It's missing Trudeau. They're not even mentioning their leader on some of their advertising. Of course, we see it on the lawn signs, the Team Trudeau logo. But in advertising that has been placed since the election started, whether it's Catherine McKenna's bike racks in Ottawa, or the online ads for Joyce Murray and Jonathan Wilkinson, or if it's bus shelter ads placed by Harjit Sajjan in Vancouver South, they're all missing the name of the leader. That indicates that they are worried that they're going to be seen by voters just as a Team Trudeau member, instead of actually be the member of parliament of their area. That seems to be something that they're doing in their advertising right now. That would be something that would be a byproduct of their polling. That the polling would be telling them that the leader's popularity has gone down. We've already seen some polls which have said that Trudeau is the least trustworthy and most arrogant of the leaders of the national parties. That he really doesn't make that connection anymore, and we're seeing some polls as well that have shown that the millennials have soured on Trudeau. That the Trudeau mania we saw in 2015 as the alternative to Stephen Harper, that the shine is off. We've seen a lot of broken promises, of course, the situation with the pipeline. And for those voters who believe in climate change and think that's the number one issue, they look at that and really sneer at it. That you've got the Trudeau-led government that declared a climate emergency one day in the House of Commons, and the next day they greenlight the pipeline again, the Trans Mountain pipeline. So you see that lack of trust and lack of confidence by a lot of the electorate in Trudeau, which is causing Trudeau to do some funny things on the campaign trail, such as get an endorsement from Barack Obama, which I can't remember the last time an American president, past or present, has endorsed a Canadian party leader in an election. It just seems rather odd and rather desperate on behalf of the Liberals. But then again, the Liberals are running a campaign that's engineered by people who have run campaigns here in British Columbia. People that were involved in Vision Vancouver and Gregor Robertson's era at City Hall, and people that were involved in the Christy Clark era of the BC Liberals are in the war room for the federal Liberals, for Justin Trudeau. And, some of the same techniques they used in Vancouver and BC-wide for those campaigns they're using for this campaign as well. They're doing whatever they can to try to demonize Andrew Scheer just because he's a dual citizen. And the latest thing today is that they got some footage of him at the House of Commons where he didn't stand up for the national anthem. It wasn't a scheduled national anthem singing. It was just something spontaneous, I understand. But nonetheless, they're using that to try to tarnish his image and make him look like someone who shouldn't connect with the voters. They did the same thing in previous campaigns here in British Columbia. We saw what they did to attack Adrian Dix in the 2013 provincial election, and we saw what happened with the civic election in Vancouver in 2014. The NPA candidate was Kurt LaPointe, who ran an otherwise smart campaign, someone who came from the media who wanted to actually make Vancouver City Hall more transparent and accountable to the people. Well, one of the things that the Vision Vancouver campaign, which includes some of these Trudeau campaigners today, the Vision Vancouver campaign really attacked Kurt LaPointe because he had the sin of living at UBC. That's what they used against him, and that apparently did cause a lot of voters to decide not to vote for Kurt LaPointe, even though at the time Gregor Robertson wasn't really telling the truth of where he was living. So they're using these tactics to try to take the credibility away from the opposition leader and bring the opposition leader down, and to try to use the whole idea of the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Their hope that voters won't mind voting for a devil, but they'll vote for the devil they know, which is a sad commentary on our democracy if that's how people are going to decide how to vote on someone just on the fact that they may have been sitting down when the national anthem was being sung in the House of Commons, or that they may have decided not to march in a pride parade, or may not have decided to have marched in a climate protest. If that's how people are going to decide their vote, instead of look at the broad range of the platforms and the policies they propose and their own track record in Parliament, if they're not going to look at the big picture, if they're going to look at the superficial in order to decide their vote, then that's a sad place we are in democracy. But how this will go? Well, you can't count out the Trudeau team because this is the way that they campaign, and they've been successful before here in British Columbia. They managed to keep Gregor Robertson in power at Vancouver City Hall. Robertson didn't deserve it. By the time Robertson was done, he had a lot of detractors, a lot of people that were embarrassed they ever voted for him, even if they admitted that they voted for him. Same thing with Christy Clark. After she was done in 2017, you had a lot of people saying, well, why did we vote her? Why did we keep her around so long? Well, kept her around so long because you bought the product marketing in previous campaigns from this group, and now this group is trying its best to keep Justin Trudeau in power, who really doesn't deserve another 4 years after all the broken promises, whether it's a broken promise on electoral reform, broken promise on balancing the budget in 2019, as well as the integrity found twice in violation of the conflict of interest laws, most recently over the SNC Lavalin scandal. This campaign has been a funny one because it's all about the liberals trying to control the narrative when it comes to connecting Andrew Scheer with Doug Ford and trying to say that an Andrew Scheer government would make a lot of cutbacks like the Doug Ford government in Ontario did. Meanwhile, there's other issues across the country which have not really received their due. Here in British Columbia, of course, we've got a major problem with housing affordability, which has not been solved yet. We got a problem with money laundering, which the NDP, the provincial NDP government, was the one that flagged that, not the federal Liberals. The federal Liberals were off on their own tangent, not doing anything about that. And they're the ones that ultimately control the RCMP through federal funding, and they're the ones that also control the immigration, the borders. So we had a lot of very wealthy people come from around the world, and some of them have been found to be involved in organized crime. And the federal Liberals seem to be asleep at the switch, but the provincial NDP, when they got into power in 2017, decided to make that one of their causes. And we heard David Eby back in September complain that the money that was promised in this year's budget by the Trudeau Liberals has not started to flow to BC in order for BC to battle the money laundering. So that's another issue. Another issue is the fentanyl overdose crisis. This campaign's been about the climate crisis. That's what the Liberals, as well as the NDP and the Greens, have really been pushing, is climate action, carbon taxes, do whatever they can to try to decrease emissions. But there is a crisis that is killing people across the country, and that's the overdose crisis, the fentanyl crisis, which is still a problem. And here we have a government which has resisted declaring a national crisis, and a government which has not done enough to actually secure the borders when it comes to keeping crime and criminals out, especially when it comes to the ports, where we still have no ports police. Haven't had a ports police since 1999, when it was the Chrétien Liberals that were in charge, and they were the ones that shut it down, despite the calls to keep it open, because it's been left, policing of ports has been left to the police of jurisdiction, and police agencies only have so much in the way of resources. So a lot of issues have not been talked about, but that's the way some of these political parties like to have it, because they really have adopted the tenets of product marketing and have honed their message down to simplicity, and they really don't want to be talking about too many issues, which is a shame. That this election really should be longer, there should be more debates, and there should be some compulsion for the media to hold the government to, and the other parties to talk about other issues, not just the issues that they want to advertise about or the issues that they think will win. There has to be a better democracy in these campaigns, and I think ultimately that might be mirrored in the voting numbers. Of course, the high numbers for the advanced polling on Thanksgiving weekend. Will those numbers actually translate to bigger numbers on Election Day? And I kind of think they won't. I think a lot of people decided just to get it out of the way early. They already made their decisions. And, of course, there'll be the rest of Canadians that will vote on Election Day. But we're going to end up, one way or another, we're going to end up with someone who will be Prime Minister of a party that did not get the majority of support from Canadian voters, much less Canadians. And I think that is problem with our democracy. I think we need another choice, another box on the ballot. If we're not going to get electoral reform, proportional representation, we at least need to have another avenue, perhaps mandatory voting, but also a box that says none of the above. And if there's too many people saying none of the above, too many people saying that they're unhappy with the candidates in their area for MP, well, there should be a runoff election, another election to decide the MPs, so that there is a consensus of people, if not a majority of people, that they decide to send to Ottawa. the system really is broken, and I don't see any of these parties that are running candidates on Monday in the election able to fix it, or with ideas to fix it. I don't think they really have the will to. We really do need a bit of a democratic revolution in Canada to get the people to have the power again, not the party or the Prime Minister.
We'll have more with Bob Mackin right after the break.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Mackin. Bob, will we get to see the information the RCMP has gathered on the spending scandal at the BC Legislature?
Oh, we eventually will. It just depends what form. There is an application that was made last week by Post Media to a judge at Surrey Provincial Court to see one of the production orders, or the information to obtain the production orders. So the application that the police made to the court in order to get a warrant so they could go in and look at evidence and take some evidence away. Right now it's sealed. We can't read this. Normally these production orders and search warrants are not sealed. We do have a right to see them. Sometimes they're lightly censored because they may contain evidence that the police and the courts don't want the public to quite see yet. But we eventually will see this. We don't know if we'll see this when the judge decides to let it be unsealed, even in redacted form. We may have to wait to see this when there is an actual charge. And that's the key to the whole thing, that when this application was made, you had a lawyer from Post Media arguing for full disclosure. You also had the Special Prosecutor Brock Martland, as well as a lawyer acting for the RCMP, and then the lawyers for Craig James and Gary Lenz, all four of the other lawyers, opposed it. And they basically said, yeah, now is not the time. Let the RCMP do their work. And should they find the evidence? Well, of course, they'd bring the evidence along with charges to court, where there'd be a trial and where the evidence would be tested. But they said, for now, this investigation is still too dynamic, and too much information on the public could possibly affect the jury pool. Should there be charges, and there should be a trial, and it should be a trial by jury and judge, while they say that they don't want to pollute the jury pool to have prejudice against their clients or against the potential witnesses as well in a criminal case. So we'll see what the judge says. This is a unique situation of we've never seen in BC again. The rules are being written as we go along. We'll see what happens. This could be a week or two, or it could be a month or two. We don't quite know when the judge will make this decision on the status of this information to obtain a production order regarding the legislature scandal.
Bob, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
My guest has been award-winning investigative reporter Bob Mackin, publisher of TheBreaker.News, his website, TheBreaker.ca. If you have any questions for Bob or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.